Well, I knew that by starting this marathon I'd have to cross this bridge sooner or later. Let's get dangerous. Today, we've probably got the toughest season yet to get through. Not because it's low quality, mind you. In fact, far from it. It's more than obvious that the DB crew was passionate enough about this show to take their criticisms to heart by making the series bigger and better than ever. The fact that most of these episodes were animated by one or maybe a couple people is impressive enough, but it's also this season where Wiz and Boomstick's partnership was perfected to a science, giving us more of a reason to watch the show other than mindless action. At this point, Wiz and Boomstick have become such synonymous parts of the show, I honestly can't think of anyone else who could possibly fill in for them.
You? Oh, raccoon boy!
Wait a minute. That voice. Something about it makes my blood boil from oversaturation and fear for my safety. But the only person I could think of who could possibly do something like that just by talking is... Oh no.
Oh yeah! Yes, it is I, the Merc with a Mouth, the regenerating degenerate, Captain Never Die, a Deadpool.
No! How are you here? Why are you here? And is that seriously your new theme song?
1, you left your door unlocked. B, filming for Deadpool 3 got delayed because of you know what. And third, how kind of you to notice.
I knew I should have invested in the custom security instead of that rinky-dink padlock. But wait a minute, sing your praises? You don't even know if I'm gonna talk about your episode.
Oh, I see what you're doing here. You want to keep a level of suspense for the viewers going in. Okay, I'll play along. Just be sure to keep my trophy for best season 2 episodes sanitized. I may be a regenerating mutate, but I'm still human. Why do you think I wear a mask all the time?
Because you look like an avocado had sex with an older, more disgusting avocado?
That I do, my boy. That I do. Catch you later, Diet Boomstick.
But I don't have a trophy and he's gone. Something tells me this won't be the last time I hear from him. And would somebody please shut that theme music off? Thank you. Back to my thought before I was rudely interrupted. When I said this show is bigger and better than ever, I mean that the quality is better and the season count was way bigger. At this point in the show, they didn't really have the same seasonal plan as they do currently. A lot of this came down to the fact that episode releases were super sporadic, and it wasn't until around the midway point that we got a much more consistent schedule. We only got 5 episodes in 2013. 5! That's insane to think about considering the state of the show now. So, because of this release when ready mentality, much akin to Gravity Falls, we now have 32 episodes to go through in this review. Aw, geez, that's a lot of content! So, let's take a look at how well these episodes hold up in 10 words or less. Ready? Go! A near-naked man pounds some pussy. Shao Kahn bores his enemy to death. Why do ninja fights have so many explosions? TNA! Booby fight! Okay, so Bucky's kind of a racist. Or speciest? Who knew Detroit sold miniguns and rocket launchers in stores? Da 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 da. We are number 2. The only fight that's actually impossible to argue with. Pretty sure evil Walmart would just get bought by Disney. Kaiju fights are harmless. Moving on. The phrase winners don't do drugs technically holds true here. Tommy's voice was great. Why'd they need to change? Oh. Can you lose to me in a death battle? Sure you can. A classic through and through. Meme pool and all.
Say that to my face, you son of a...
Pink. The purest color of terror. Funniest episode of season 2. Changed my mind. A down-to-earth fight. That's all I've got. Much better. Also, rest in peace, Monty. Legends say they're still fighting to this day. Just another Tuesday for Guts the Demon Slayer. Why does Tony have a Keyblade and Dragon Balls? Misunderstood and humane beasts act like literal wild animals. Psych! Something dark side. Something okay at best. Keep poking that bear. I think it's waking. Come on, DK, I just wanted some weed. Pure, unadulterated, badass. Hail Satan! Hail Satan! If only Tifa had fought stone pillars in her games. Animated in 2 days? Damn! He spit all his arrow in twine! Just like that, Red became Ash. Now that's what I like to see. Even though this season had a crazy huge quantity, this fortunately did not mean the quality had to be sacrificed. For the most part at least. The season started off relatively slow, but when the pace picked up, it never looked back. But with this many episodes, there's bound to be at least a few stinkers. Luckily, not nearly as many as season 1.
Goddamn son of a shit weasel!
Batman vs. Captain America. When the preview came out, my mind was blown. Combatants can get a second chance, and we get to have more Batman? Nowadays, I'm like, no more Batman. Please, 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 no more Batman. And DC for that matter. I get that he's a popular character and all, but it gets old real fast when you use the same character 3 times. Why do you think people are so sick of Marvel characters, including one annoying one in particular?
Hey, I resent that. At least I'm not being used for the 10 billionth time, like, say, a certain skeleton in Cartoon Fight Club.
Touché. It was a close tie between this one and Ivy vs. Orchid. The reason this one edged out is because it's just kind of boring. There's nothing really memorable from the fight other than the Batgel fake out. But even then, the only reason that happened was because Cap was dumb enough to just haphazardly throw his shield into the mist. And then all of a sudden, Batman was strong enough to uppercut Cap several stories into the air and grapple hook hang him by a lamppost? I know this is animation, guys, and it's important to suspend your disbelief, but really? Also, it's another case of one combatant dominates the whole time until the other gets the upper hand at the last second. Only this time it was Batman. Because catharsis, I guess?
Goddamn son of a shit weasel!
Gaara vs. Toph. Now, don't get me wrong, seeing Toph win is great, but the way we got to that win is a bit questionable. Of all the fights this season, I'd argue this one has the absolute worst pacing. The voice acting is decent, and we do get plenty of cool effects, but there are plenty of moments where the sound design and presentation feels so empty and even sloppy at times. It could be from the lack of music in several spots, the sound effects that look awkward today, or how about the fact that Gaara barely moves the whole time? Honestly, the most noteworthy thing about this episode is that it provided soundbite material for my worstless transitions. Well, at least I can take comfort knowing the results can be decided by the special features of a DVD.
Goddamn son of a shit weasel!
Yang vs. Tifa. Let's get one thing straight. Yes, this episode is bad. Borderline abysmal even. But it does not mean Death Battle is biased. First off, they weren't even owned by Rooster Teeth at this time. Second, even when they were bought by the company, Weiss lost in her episode. But Nate, her death was so tame, and Ruby won a DBX against Ragna. Ignoring the fact that Weiss's death was an obvious homage to Mitsuru's astral finish, DBX did another Ruby episode, Blake vs. Inuyasha. Now, I know that DBXs recently have been decided by votes as opposed to how the animators feel, but that doesn't mean voters are able to control how the characters die. So, how did Blake die in that one again? So can we please just give Death Battle the benefit of the doubt that this episode was plagued more by incompetence rather than bias? The stilted animation, a memeable explanation, and Tifa's strangely bad audio quality are reasons enough to hate this one.
I'm going to blow you out of the water!
Also, this might be one of the hardest 3D fights to look back at. Older 3D fights had a tendency to get, well, is seizure-inducing. There's no way around it. Some of these episodes are straight up physically painful to look at, keeping them from getting higher scores for me personally. And this episode is one of the worst offenders due to the use of colors with not a whole lot of edge to them. Even season 1 of Ruby didn't screw up this bad. Still love you, Torian.
Hold up, let me see some like
I am McLovin.
Goddamn son of a shit weasel!
Beast vs. Goliath. Ever wondered how a show like Death Battle could possibly do a filler episode? Well, look no further than this one. At least the others feel like Season 2 episodes. Here, it feels like they've reverted back to their Season 1 days. It's just such a nothing episode that does a terrible job of representing these characters. Goomba vs. Koopa is more eventful than this fight.
weasel!
Goku vs. Superman 2. The episode's so bad that even Ben regrets making it. Sure, the animation is great looking, but it's nowhere near as memorable and exciting as the first, and it feels like it's doing the bare minimum of showing what these characters can do in terms of powers and abilities. The analysis felt more like a documentary, which I guess sort of works for this episode's context. But if I wanted to watch a documentary about these characters, I could just do that on my own time. The results analysis has next to no structure and feels all over the place, but the real reason this one is the worst of the season is just how unnecessary it is. It added nothing new to the conversation and served only to fan the flames of an already heated and hopeless debate. Thank God this wasn't the season finale. As I'm sure you all can imagine, coming up with a top 5 for this season was near impossible without leaving out great episodes. So let's do a top 10 instead.
Cop out.
But first, a few honorable mentions. Ryu vs. Scorpion is one of the most well put together fighting game episodes this show has done, period. And it just barely missed this list due to the iffy results. Ironman vs. Lex Luthor is a lot of fun. From the story to the set pieces, they've even got my homie Chuck Huber in on the action, who has easily one of the coolest lines of the entire show.
I don't know, Lex. Being a god can't be too hard. I mean, I'm the most intelligent, capable person on the planet. I'm not playing God. All this time, I've been playing human.
But some of the lighting effects make it really hard to look at. Nothing on the level of Yang vs. Tifa, mind you, but still noticeable. Donkey Kong vs. Knuckles has some really good comedy during the analysis thanks to how stupid these two are, as well as the insanity that is the DKC cartoon.
Then we made this whole big bash for nothing?
Then why did I pay for this dinner?
Then why I brush my teeth?
Then why did I use up my best material on this shit?
Just a few nitpicky things like DK sprites as well as spotting bringing it down. How did DK get there so fast? Chuck Norris vs. Segata Sanshiro may be similar in a sense to Justin Bieber vs. Rebecca Black, but this one transcends that train wreck and then some by focusing more on the legends rather than the actual people. Despite being based on an outdated meme, I posit this one still holds up. I'd be remiss not to mention Pokemon vs. Digimon and its kick-ass battle track by Nate Wants to Battle. It's too bad it only appears for a third of the fight.
That's it! Flamethrower!
Nova Flame!
And also... yeah, if you're wondering where my innocence is, it came down with a nasty case of death. Still, I have a lot of respect for this episode. It feels finale-worthy, and the fact that it got finished mere minutes before the livestream premiering it is crazy to think about. It's also got some really cool voice acting, not to mention the fact that Xander Mobus essentially plays 3 different characters. Talk about range!
There's nothing better than a campfire and a golden, delicious marshmallow.
Greymon! Let's try.
What the hell was that?
Yes! Yes! Oh, that was awesome!
Pokemon Battle Royale. I'll admit, I don't have the biggest relationship with Pokemon. While most people played the main games as children, I've always been enamored with Mystery Dungeon. But this is a much better episode than the last Battle Royale. Not only was the victor less obvious, it also didn't make me sick to my stomach. These are wild animals after all. It almost feels like an episode of Animal Face-Off in that regard. A show Death Battle took a lot of inspiration from. It helps that the deaths are over the top enough to be more humorous rather than sickening. I've learned to appreciate the insane amount of math that goes into these games, and the origin of where Blastoise came from is still one of the best jokes from this series.
Yes! Yes! Oh, that was awesome!
Mega Man vs. Astro Boy. These prepubescent Robo-Boys can give one hell of a fight, which is especially impressive considering most of the original episode got lost and had to be nearly redone from scratch. Did this animator do any other episodes?
Oh.
Whatever. Doesn't matter since this one is still sick as hell. The wide variety of weapons and constant back and forth are one thing, but the flashy, hard-hitting action is on another level here, and shows just how far this show has come in terms of sprite battles.
Yes! Yes! Oh, that was awesome!
He-Man vs. Lion-O. Proof yet again that I don't need to have any connections with the characters to enjoy an episode. It's obvious that Ben and Chad had a blast writing this one, constantly trying to one-up each other with the ridiculous as hell feats, and this attitude shows up in the analysis as well.
Circles fast enough to create a vacuum.
The fuck?
And dug to the center of the planet with nothing but a broken stalactite,
The double fuck?
giving him much more experience.
Wait, what was that?
Shh, this is vital.
No, go back right there.
There you go, fella. Good as new.
What? Okay, so it's broken. I guess I'll just magic it back together.
The fight itself feels like it comes straight from the 80s. Well, if 80s cartoons were more self-aware and pointy.
Oh.
Ah, so you like self-aware humor, do ya? Might you perhaps be a fan of a certain someone? Maybe someone who looks like Spider-Man if he, say, fell into a vat of lasagna?
You know, you're so overconfident, Wade. Have you ever thought to consider the possibility that you might not even be on the list?
I'm sorry. Remind me, who gave whose episode a 10 out of 10 again?
Me?
That's right. Now go ahead and keep ripping off Jello Apocalypse's shoddy format. I gotta go clear up a space on the old trophy shelf for my Top Death Battle of Season 2 award.
Anyways, shout out to the voice actors for really selling this one, including, what do you know, Xander Mobus.
Let's go do something normally perceived as impossible.
Stop right there! You would mount that poor pussy like some sort of mule? You muscular fiend!
This is also the first episode to introduce Chris Guerrero as the fight announcer, and at this point, his voice has become as much a staple as Wiz and Boomstick themselves. Although I will admit that there's one bit in the analysis that confuses me.
Physique, the Eye of Thundera is easily the most dangerous weapon He-Man has ever faced, more than capable of obliterating him if given the chance.
But
Not only can the Power Sword deflect all Lion-O's main attacks, it's
why even bring it up? Oh, and let's not forget that PSA.
Remember, kids, it is very important to always get your pets spayed and neutered. Otherwise, it may lead to unstable behavior and unauthorized breeding.
I miss my balls. Yes! Fuck yes! Oh, that was awesome.
Hercule Satan versus Dan Hibiki. How often do we get an episode where Wiz and Boomstick talk up the combatants' incompetence rather than badassery, only treating the actually cool things they did as an afterthought? Now, I'm aware that this episode has long swaths of seeming emptiness like Gaara versus Toph, but here, that atmosphere is used more appropriately for comedic purposes, like when Dan tried to use that jetpack, building up to when hilarious hijinks ensue.
Ultimate rocket booster Psyche Doom!
Well, that's disappointing.
I'm impressed with how close the voice actors come to replicating the originals, and it's great hearing Nick get in on the fun as the announcer.
What the heck? I mean, what a spectacle!
But man, whoever came up with that killing blow deserves the biggest raise possible. Not only is it hilarious, but it's such a great in-character way for Satan to take the victory while still making him look badass. These guys may be fun to jeer at, but let's be real, we all know these two could wipe the floor with most of us in an actual fight, which is kinda depressing to think about.
This is over! Oh, man! Yes! Fuck yes! Oh, that was awesome!
Ragna the Blood Edge versus Soul Bad Guy. Okay, seriously, why is he called Bad Guy? Is this supposed to be an acronym? Oh, spoilers for Green Eggs and Ham.
That wasn't a spoiler until you said the name of the TV show.
I did not joke earlier. This episode makes me laugh more than Satan vs. Dan, He-Man vs. Lion-O, and that other episode I'm sure most of you are expecting to appear here soon. In Season 1, it felt like the writers tried to get through the analysis as quickly as possible, treating it more like an obligation, but by this point, I started looking forward to the banter of our two hosts just as much as the animation, and this episode is a great showcase of Wiz and Boomstick's comedic chemistry.
If the Black Beast never went back in time, then it would never have created Seether, and everything in BlazBlue shouldn't exist as we know it. So how?
No one knows!
No one knows, that man, blue robo-penis, 18 belts. There are so many iconic moments from this episode. Oh, the fight is alright too, I guess.
Yes! Fuck Yes! Oh, that was awesome!
Wolverine vs. Raiden. The first 3D fight to appear on my best list. Don't worry, it won't be the last. Unfortunately. I don't know if this one was a popular matchup idea at the time, but it's kind of brilliant looking back on it. Not only are these two masters of fighting in face-stabbing range, but it also served as the answer to an age-old question. Is Wolverine's skeleton truly indestructible? Well, we finally get that answer with some of Torian's best choreography yet, as well as some talented voice acting. Tim Page does an excellent Raiden impression.
It's time for Jack the Ripper to let her rip!
And I can't stress enough how much Xander Mobus is an absolute Chad in the voice acting community.
Nice trick, Voltron. I'm actually more human than you. And that's saying something.
This fight also showcases Brandon Yates, an original composer for the show who would only get better from here. As far as unstoppable force versus immovable object matchups go, this is one of the best.
Yes! Yes! Oh, that was awesome!
Guts vs. Nightmare. Now wait a minute, why is this one so high? Doesn't it also fall into the same trap as Batman vs. Spider-Man and Batman vs. Captain America, where one opponent is dominating most of the match and then all of a sudden the other person wins out of nowhere? Kind of, but that aspect actually fits this episode's theme perfectly. Guts, not unlike Goku, is defined by battles where he struggles against opponents that are leagues above him. This is what makes us cheer for these characters when they manage to come out on top. So seeing Guts get brutally beaten up throughout and turning it around is thrilling and cathartic for me. Guts vs. Nightmare also has some of the best sound design of this season, giving each of the hits an insanely brutal feeling to them. Plus, I just couldn't bring myself to root against him at the time. That backstory of his gives even Doofenshmirtz a run for his money. His freaking parents didn't even show up to his birth. How is that possible? Now, does this mean I'll watch Berserk? Maybe. We'll see if I grow the stomach for it. I still haven't gotten over a Kame ga Kill. At least the abridged serves as a palate cleanser.
Hey, Pinky, that man boss lady says it's your turn to trade me. Before you kill me, I gotta ask one thing. Is pink your favorite color?
Yeah.
Ah, good to know.
Yes! Yes! Oh, that was awesome!
Solid Snake vs. Sam Fisher. Watching nonsense sprite fights where I can just turn my head off and enjoy the flashiness is cool and all, but what happens when you actually try to tie a narrative into the mix? Pretty fitting that this approach was used for a Kojima character. What makes this such a beloved episode in my eyes all comes down to the presentation. The use of lighting builds the atmosphere and even hides the imperfections of the 3D models. The cat and mouse game of seeing who gets the data first adds a whole new layer to the suspense. And holy hell, that voice acting! When a show gets Chris Sabat on their team, you know you're in for a treat. Plenty of excellent close quarters combat, creative use of their sidekicks, but is no one gonna talk about how that infamous churro story was being told while Sam Fisher was killing a dog? It's moments like these when I wish we could see Wiz and Boomstick's faces.
That would be so cool. So cool.
Yes! Yes! Oh, that was awesome!
Deadpool versus...
Hold the phone. This has gotta be like a typo, right?
What are you complaining about? You got number 2 in the longest season of the show.
Hey! Deadpool is second to none. Not in life, not in the box office, and most certainly not in a Death Battle Top 10 list.
Joker.
We truly do live in a society.
Are you gonna finish that statement?
That's it, we live in a society.
Ugh, ignoring the fact that that line isn't even in the damn movie, could you please just hear me out? This episode may not be number 1, but it's in the top 2 for a reason. I know this episode kind of perpetuated the stereotype that Wade is just a lol, I'm so random character, but it can be funny when it's written well. His presence added a whole new layer to the analysis portion that wasn't doable before. What if there was a third party that annoyed both Wiz and Boomstick, as opposed to them annoying each other? It also helps that Curtis is one of the best voice actors on the internet, giving a performance that rivals Nolan North and even Ryan Reynolds senpai. Combine that with Slade's dry and annoyed demeanor, and you've got the recipe for an episode that will leave you on the floor. There's also no convincing me that this isn't still some of Torian's best fight choreography. So, we cool, dude?
I have nothing to say to you.
Well then, that's certainly a first.
And the moral of the story is...
Deadpool wins! Yay! This is totally racist. Hey, chimichanga!
Yes! Yes! Oh, that was awesome!
Kirby versus Majin.
No!
Hey, whatever happened to no talking?
Are you saying that my episode, my beautiful fourth wall obliterating episode against Mr. Orange is the New Black, lost to flippin' B?
Well, yeah, it's really good. It's in my top 5 episodes of all time, even. Have you even seen the video?
Yeah. And I know it isn't accurate at that kid with the watch getting his arm snipped off by giant green scissors.
People are still talking about that? Look, just stop for a moment and really think. Alright, listen up all you diehard Dragon Ball fans. I don't care how much hate I get for saying this. Kirby vs. Majin Buu is not only fantastic, but it's also accurate. So please, for your sake and mine, but mostly mine, just calm down and stop it.
Stop it. Okay. Okay? Okay. Alright.
With that out of the way, I'll admit, it does feel a little weird to have both of my #1 episodes for Season 1 and 2 be ones where the Dragon Ball character loses, but I promise, it's only a coincidence. First off, the analysis here was great. It served as a neat reflection of newcomers' reactions to this episode. How can these pink puffballs possibly be so terrifying? And seeing the hosts react to the insanity these characters pulled off, including easily one of the craziest death battle feats ever with that Popon incident, is fun to watch. As for the fight itself, holy crap is it awesome. I love how it essentially brought to light the idea that Kirby may be cute, but he's also a ravenous destroyer of worlds. It's why I love him so much as a character. He's the epitome of looks can be deceiving. Kirby is such a lovable and iconic gaming hero at this point. I'd be surprised if anyone wasn't chanting this by the end of the episode. Kirby vs. Majin Buu is one of the longest sprite battles in the show, only beaten out by Satan vs. Hibiki, funnily enough, but it doesn't feel long. The reason fights like Godzilla vs. Gamera didn't make it on here is simply because I thought they dragged. Not this one, though. It's fast-paced, brutal, and is constantly introducing new elements to the fight to keep you on your toes, such as the copy abilities, regeneration, the Star Rod, Kid Buu, and the Miracle Fruit that led to one of the coolest ending sequences in Death Battle history. The length itself is even solid representation of how hard Buu was to kill. Almost feels like an actual episode of Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, I get it. You're scared, aren't you? Afraid knowing that this planet only has 1 minute left before it explodes.
Question.
Huh?
Do you have a watch?
No, why?
Do you know what a minute is?
What? Of course I do.
I don't think you do.
Speaking of Team 4-Star, the Funko Pop ad starring Masako X alone is enough to make this episode #1. Your episode may have been funny, Wade, but this one is simply on a whole nother level.
Okay, fine. I'll admit that fight was pretty cool.
Come on, who's my little fourth wall breaking superhero? Who is he?
I am.
Yes, you are. Now that the review is done, would you kindly get the fuck out of my house? Or computer monitor or whatever.
Fine, I'm going. Oh, and try not to blow your throat out doing that voice. Okay, Carrick? Bye. Subscribe to FTS4!
Finally. That was starting to get weird towards the end. But hey, that's just my list. What are your favorites and least favorites of Season 2? Odds are I missed a few since the season was so damn long and so damn good. I can't wait to see how the next season steps it up. Huh. Only 14 episodes. Oh yeah, the seasonal format. Well hey, it may be shorter, thank God, but that must also mean it's improved, focusing on quality over quantity. Right?
Ganon could only be killed by holy weapons like the Master Sword and Silver Arrows, so while Bowser could hurt him, he couldn't exactly kill him.
Oh no.
Oh yeah!
Please let there not be any color pastel equines next time.